I wish I would get that type of applause when I show up at the front door to my home every day, but I don't. But that's okay. I do get that applause when we have our podcast, Late Night Parent Podcast. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com, where you can find us, or you can follow us through the website, through the Twitter feed, through the aforementioned Facebook blog. And we're delighted to have none other than Sean Armour, a.k.a. True Armour. If you follow him on Twitter, TRU_ARMOR. Sean, how you doing?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Excited to have, I would say, another session with you. I know we had a session a couple of days ago, and due to unforeseen technical difficulties, that session was destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think, oh my goodness. Due to that, I like to think that this session will go smoothly. A totally different type of setup. But, dude, what's going on in your world? How are you doing?
Good. My world is quiet, which is a blessing, since the whole world is on fire. I feel that I'm in a good position.
That's true. I think
this week, anyway.
This week, we're both in a good position.
Exactly.
We're recording this while the March for Our Lives rally has been going on.
Right.
I guess we'll shake up the topics we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk a little Toys R Us. We're going to talk a little Facebook. We're going to talk a little bit about Stephen Clark and why that name should resonate with you. We'll also talk about I guess we get another one. We'll talk also about the March for Our Lives. And lastly, we'll talk about autonomous cars. So 5 topics. We're going to try to do a rapid fire. But with that, I'm going to throw, Sean, the first topic out to you. The March for Our Lives rally. I did not attend. It's primarily in D.C., but it's, to the march against gun control or the lack of gun control, gun reform.
Right.
Common sense laws. I didn't attend today. I could have attended in New York. I really wish I would have put 2 and 2 together and attended the rally in D.C., But what are your thoughts? Will we get any movement behind it? Or will it just be another march for us to put the feather in our cap?
And say we care. We check the box.
Check the box.
Yeah, I think it's a cross the T and dot the I kind of. Hey, we march for this. We're standing in the right sort of thing. I don't really think that there'll be any shift in the policy because these kids are marching. I think, like I've said on my Facebook, I think they're telegenic. I think they're very beautiful. I think they're exactly what you want to see on American television, this MTV style system we have now for media. But, if they were a shade darker complected, if they were pimply and overweight, if they had a anarchist tattoo and all this other stuff, and they were saying the same thing, I don't think anybody would be behind this march. Because black kids have been saying the same thing for a while, and, they didn't get any love from the media. They didn't get this kind of free press, apparently, is what America runs on now, right? So all these media people talking to these kids, who, don't get me wrong, their point is valid, but my thing about it is, I've seen this train come through before, it just never stops. It just makes a lot of noise and it keeps on going. And I've been waiting at this platform for a while. So now I'm considerably older and I'm waiting at this platform. This time around, there's a bunch of, like I said, telegenic Twitter kids from Parkland High School who are waiting with me, and it looks like the train may stop because they're here, but I don't think it will. I really don't. I'm that sort of jaded with it. I can't keep having faith. So I wish them well, but yeah, I'm not at that march either.
I will, and you and I are in the similar chat rooms, and I like a few other of our friends that have attended the march. Give the young folks credit.
Yeah. Don't
they
get us wrong.
Yeah, they deserve
exactly.
it.
Yeah. They're politically involved at a young age, and we like that. But I think the jade on the jade, I'm about to say the shade, but I don't want to call it shade. But the jadedness of my group, the other people that I think side with me, I don't want to say I represent anybody, isn't that the kids are meddling or any of that. I don't believe that. I just believe that I've been to too many marches, too many protests. I've written to too many congressmen. I've called too many times to see how the situation works to get excited about it. You know what it is? I've been invited to your wedding too many times for this thing. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, another wedding announcement from the gun rights people. Should I turn up in March? And that's where I'm at. This looks like another invitation to get me amped up about change in my society, because you're connecting it with young people, and I feel it, but I don't think anybody cares, because those young people are older than the kids in Connecticut who were shot, who were 5, and you didn't seem to be influenced by them. And those young kids are younger than the college kids who you see, and so apparently they're not old enough for one group, they're too old for another group. I wanted this change. I wish them well. I cannot go out there and march yet again, because I think that I would be foolish, and I would be paying short shrift to the seriousness that I give the argument if I just showed up every time someone told me to show up. So I wish them well. I just seen it before, and I don't see anything that tells me that we're at a tipping point, even though they all showed up. It has to be this and something else. So again, we wish them well. We wish that they see something that us older cats don't see, us people. And when I say older cats, I mean anybody older than 21, because they're all in high school. So whatever magic they see, whatever hope they have, I hope can ignite this to remain. I see intelligent kids who I would argue are being used for a media cycle by those in charge.
Well, I will say this much, because I understand your words, but mostly I understand your core values. Right. I remember years ago you being out there for Occupy Wall Street. Yeah. I remember you sending me a text message saying, "Hey, I'm Ted. I'm a few blocks away from you, and I'm at Zuccotti Park." So I mean, I understand that you support what they're trying to do.
Yes.
I just guess at this point in our lives we get a little jaded, because we've seen so much and we've seen no movement.
Exactly.
We've seen no movement, or not enough movement, where, like you said, youngsters, elementary kids were slaughtered and nothing was done about gun reform. Exactly. The situation happened in Las Vegas and nothing was done about the bump stocks.
Yeah.
Now
it was something was done about the bump stocks this week, and I don't think it even did it carry through Congress, because they passed the banning bump stock thing, because we rarely ever ban guns.
I believe it was proposed.
Right. So it took all that long to get here. To get a proposal on it.
The day before the march.
A proposal of a ban, So the word proposal of a ban makes you think something was banned, but nothing was banned.
That right there is just optics.
Yeah, exactly.
There is just optics. Like, oh, what are you guys talking about? This is what we're proposing. And you're like, well, that was 2 or 3 shootings ago. 2 or 3 mass shootings ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
I done already
painful.
forgot the name of the school and the victim by the time this one rolls around
Right.
because they're so frequent and you can't remain perpetually outraged at this wild behavior. You really can't, can you? You really can't. I mean, you would be at, you know what it's like? It's like a million doors in the world, and every 30 seconds someone jumps out and yells boo. After the third fright, you cease to be frightened by this. You can't stay in this mindset of I can't believe this is happening and shock. Now you're just resigned to it, and then you get resigned to that, so you want to change it, and now you're resigned that there's no change coming down the pike. So I hate to be jaded and melancholy on the topic, but I want to believe. I just, you know, I've been invited to this dance too many times. The prince has showed me the glass slipper one too many times. I just don't buy it that it's fitting me and that he's the prince, and that's all I got. But man, like you said, we've had this conversation over the years, quite frankly.
I think the one big difference that's going to happen with these young folks and is the fact that is they will be able to vote in less than 2 years.
Yeah.
They will 2 to 3 years, maximum 4 years for some of them. They will be able to vote. That's when the change starts to happen. When you could start voting some of these jokers out of office, because you could look and say, "This is what happened to me, and this is what my local congressperson did. Nothing,
Right.
zilch,
Right.
zero."
Yeah.
So instead of trying to get all hyped up over the presidential race, you got to focus on the local races because that's what matters. That's
Yeah.
what matters most. And people seem to drop the ball and to miss it, but I don't think they're going to miss it for this upcoming 2018, the midterm election. I think it's going to be some form of referendum, and I hopefully think people will stay. I like the young folks like to say, stay woke
Right.
for the local politics, the local lawmakers that are writing the laws that are affecting your state, your city, your municipality. That's what you got to focus on.
Yeah.
If you have a local issue, Sean, are you going to write Donald Trump? No, you're going to go find out who your council person is,
Exactly.
who your local trustee is, who are these people, these state senators,
I just
that
promise you the world, but at the very base state of the foundational level of this system is that if you can get a pothole fixed,
right.
it's at that base level. What makes you think that higher up the food chain, these people sort of are concerned about, what you're concerned about, whether that's be the healthcare situation or the educational situation or the security from terrorist situation. I mean, they're not concerned about you until they're concerned about you, and they're only concerned about you when it's time to stay in office, is what it seems like. So yeah, I think when the voting comes around, and with the midterms is what, a year away?
No, it's 6 months.
This is
6 months.
No, I'm sorry. Right. This is the election. Oh my God, the election was almost 2 years ago. That's right. So the 2018 in September.
Yeah.
The midterms. It's on us already like a bullet. What will you do? It seems to me that most people will likely vote like they always vote, which is what got us in this. My ex, who's a very smart woman and very learned. We used to squabble because half her argument was a self-serving argument. And I told her, you did everything this society wanted you to do, right? You got the big education and you worked real hard. But at the end of the day, all the people with the big educations who quote unquote worked real hard are in charge. And you're unhappy with everything because they're in charge.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So maybe the thing that you're aching to be is because somewhere along the line when you were 8 years old in junior high school, someone put you on the path to this because they realized you were extra intelligent or extra smart, and now whether you know it or not, you're working against what you want in the long run. It's like the conversation we have all the time about voting against yourself, right? I believe at this point, Southern Christians vote against themselves in the Republican Party, and liberal blacks vote against themselves in the Democratic Party. Two groups who never seem to get what they want, right? Whether you believe in what they want or not, you tell the conservative Christians morality is what you want, vote for us and you'll get it, and they never get it, and they're not going to get it. They're not going to get a gay marriage overturned or gays in the military overturned. And on the other end, you tell blacks, liberal blacks, you vote for us, we'll get you gun control and social justice reform and criminal justice reform. And we never get it. We're always voting Democrat. And this time around, they'll sing the same song. We just had a guy killed in his grandparents' backyard.
Stephen Clark.
By these cops. And every black person saying, no justice, no peace. I've been hearing that forever. They should change that thing. That is just as ridiculous as thoughts and prayers at this point. No justice, no peace. All you get is no justice, and all they get is peace. So when are you going to start seriously looking at who you vote for? Is essentially, and this gun control is just a symptom of that. You could swap out the gun control issue, March for Our Lives issue, with any host of other things that the American citizenry wants, whether they be groups of women or groups of blacks or conservative voters or pro-gun, anti-gun people. At the end of the day, when you shake this out, what do we really want, and who's in charge of getting it to us, and why don't we get it, and who's in charge of keeping us from it? So yeah, I understand why people vote, but I was there, and at this point, everybody in America is always voting for something, and we've perpetually been voting for something since the 60s, right? One group or another is perpetually saying this ain't right, and then ending up on TV, somebody writes a book, the news cycle moves on. I don't know. I want good things for these kids. I just don't see it, and I'm kind of just tired of perpetually protesting.
No, I hear you. I will just piggyback off on what you were saying, that I don't agree with the folks that do vote down party lines. That's not a winning solution.
Yeah, it's zealotry, essentially.
You can't do it.
Right.
You cannot do it because... and I'll give the story, and I think I gave the story to you before, but wanted to promote that this is Late Night Parents. This is Real Ted Hicks. We're talking with Sean Armour. You can find him on Twitter at True Armour. That's TRU_ARMOR. He's a great follow. If you want to be woke, he's a great follow. If you want to hear the truth, he's a great follow. If you want to hear the bubblegum type stuff, then maybe not. If you're looking for something else, if you're looking for what's available in the mainstream.
Yeah, constant agreement, I won't give you.
That's definitely it. But to close up on this topic, I will say this much. Voting down the party lines, no. You have to listen to what these candidates are saying and see where it aligns with your goals, your dreams, and your values. And just to make sure, you got to fact check folks. You got to fact check folks. And I tell you this because I'm sure I told you this story before. I think maybe offline we've talked about this, and I would say every 4 years. So I go to church. I go to a Baptist church. And every 4 years, you see some of the candidates come through because there's, the lack of term limits. So you see some of the same folks, just coming on through there and wanting to grab the mic and wanting to drop $10 in the collection plate and looking to grab the mic to talk to the people.
Right.
And I have to agree with one Pastor Floyd Flake. In Queens, who doesn't let these politicians grab the mic. He doesn't even let them speak. He says, if you want to, I'm not here to be, to influence the parishioners. He's like, listen, if you want to stay and hear the sermon, then great. but this person is running, and he's here fellowshipping with us, and that's that. And I think that's what more churches should do.
Yeah, at this point, it's looking more like where a herd of people, you know what I mean, that this guy has control of, and cruise into his big parish or his big church, and this is his flock, quote unquote, not in the biblical sense, but more in the sense of a herd of people, of cattle, and they come with the church. This has always been the way it's been, right? This is what's the rap on churches? The most segregated hour in the American life is Sunday service, because it's always been used by people to influence poorly what should happen in people's American lives. So yeah, man, churches have always been used for nefarious purposes in the American life. So I would be skeptical of politicians coming through too, and it should have always been that way. But back when people couldn't read, they were just told this is what the Bible means, and the Bible means what whoever is controlling you means, and that was usually slave masters and these sorts of people. So now today you have this you may reword it or rebrand it, but you have this proven system of using the church for political purposes.
Right.
And now you need the church to actually stand up and be moral, but people aren't so much inclined to use it for that because again, it hasn't ever really been used for that before.
That's true. Hey, want to segue to a couple of other topics because I think we've totally ripped this one apart. So wanted to briefly talk with you about I'll say the word Facebook, and I can't envision Facebook having a worse week. I'm not saying it's not deserved, but I don't think Mark Zuckerberg ever envisioned being in control over a country, at least virtually.
Yeah.
And I think not only not prepared, not only not prepared, unprepared, unequipped, and I think they were using those 2.5 billion users as a live test case, and I think it has blown up in his face one too many times, and unfortunately, people are going to look for regulation.
Yeah.
People are going to look for regulation as the opportunity to take control of this product. But it's hard because you got to think about it. Facebook is in 190 countries. It's in 90 different. It's in 90 different languages. Yeah.
How are you going to police that?
How are you going to police that?
Yeah.
So our Congress, who can't even, let's put it this way, our legislators that try to shut down Obamacare, and as you know, they're in control of the House and Senate, still can't shut down Obamacare, but they're going to probably try to regulate Facebook. I'm like, good luck with that.
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. And isn't this the problem? This goes back to all these ADO people and all this new technology. We got punked twice, and we should have been on our guard for it. Yeah. First, I remember about 15 years ago, the Diebold company, who does all your ATM machine business, started getting involved in your voting machines and telling you, oh, you don't need a paper trail. Don't worry about it. We're all good. And then You got all this wonky anomalies and George Bush winning the presidential election, and no one looked into it then. And then you have the guy who I forget his name now, who up and disappeared with all these passwords and passcode and all this information and went to Russia. And then you had the Australian guy who's now hiding in the embassy in England, for the same kind of sketchy stuff. And you're still having this conversation because these 80-year-old people keep phoning it in. I mean, when this country, I'm beginning to get hyped up over this. I remember as a young man being told that the way America will fall will not likely be because of the Russians or the North Koreans or the Iranians with a fleet at our borders. It'll be the smugness of being taken down from within by open bribery and all this other stuff, which we have. And now it looks, if we do fall, it won't be because the Russians had an army amassing at our border. It is because the Russians infiltrated us from within, from all these guys who did not protect us. And this is what it looks like. So now Facebook, arrogant and wide open as they were, just sort of had the keys to the kingdom sitting on the front. You know how in my family, my dad would come in, he would drop his keys by the front. I still do this to this day. I may have to change this now that I told the world, but you learn your to navigate the world the way people who navigated the world taught you, right? So in our system, we essentially drop the keys and our wallet right by this front door when we came in, right? We empty out our change in the same place. And this is what happened. America just put its key and phone America as well as Facebook founder Zuckerberg had all this stuff, knowing that hey, I've got this big apparatus, I'm in charge. No one's I don't really have to really look after because it runs itself. It's a clockwork machine, and it wasn't really a clockwork machine. Other people were easily watching what you were doing and how you were doing it and look to subvert it. And that's what happened. And now people are going, yo, Zuckerberg, you had all our information in your clockwork tower. What were you doing with it? And we thought that he was, the guy behind the curtain doing all this magic wonderfulness. And he was just, the guy behind the curtain who was just on a lounge chair behind the curtain. And we got really taken to task by sinister people in this menagerie he built. So now it's sort of like the bankers, a million ways to fleece people out of money, and then the regulators show up and go, we don't even know what they did. You know what I mean? It's that. So here we are. What's going to happen? All my personal information, Facebook. What are you going to do about it? And they're sitting here going, we don't even know how to undo what was done. I mean, Analytica, what is it? What's the name? Analytica?
Cambridge Analytica.
Cambridge Analytica straight punked us. 2 billion people. Is Facebook the smartest people in the room? No. They're the people who built a giant apparatus, and now Cambridge Analytica is the smartest people in the room until they got caught, and then it'll be somebody else. But at this point, Facebook is a behemoth of a I don't know. Remember those sharks that swim through the deep with those? I think they're moray fish, like swimming right next to them. Mm-hmm. That's where we are, and some of these fish will be good and bad for you. And so whatever behemoth the Facebook creature is, the Zuckerbergs are supposed to be. It's regulating its system, right? They're supposed to be not just the people who brought it into creation, the brain of it to steer where it's going. They need to also be its immune system to stop Cambridge Analytica from causing the cancer in it. And that's what they had. So now we don't have any control. We're essentially cells in this behemoth, right? We opted on. I don't know. We're not a state, even though we say we're down with Facebook. We don't really have any power. It's
more like a meta world.
Yeah.
It's more like a meta
what
world.
do we do as meta citizens of Facebook?
Well, you have the opportunity, you have the option to
exist here or not. So you can
continue on or deactivate your account and or become educated in what apps have access to your data.
Okay, see that I buy, but for that to happen, you have to re-educate your populace, right?
Yes.
Getting Facebook was as a simple matter of signing up.
Correct.
And now you want people to know all these metrics and know what apps are and how they tie into this and when you spend one thing out, how many people it goes out to and who may or may not be able to get this in. That's a lot to ask for people who just sort of signed up to keep pictures of their grandbabies.
Yes.
That's a lot. It's a lot to sign up for the people who just want to sell extra pizzas in the community. It's a lot. I like my scenario where you're sort of part of this thing that was built, and now the Facebook people and those guys, as this behemoth move through, has to protect you. They have to protect you. It's not up for you to be like, oh man, Facebook, I really should have been a little more diligent, and now I have to do all this extra work while Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, worth $1 billion, $50 billion, $80 billion, get to sit back and go, yeah, this is not on us. This is on you users for giving us all this information. I'm like, what? No, absolutely not. In my scenario, this is on Facebook. They need to fix it. Not fully and wholly and solely on Facebook, mind you, but the system that they built, the metaphor that I'm using is one less of I have to do my diligence, like I signed on to be a special agent in MI6, and now I have to troubleshoot my apps. I signed on sort of like at my best example is the Ghost in the Shell scenario. You've seen the Ghost in the Shell movie, right? So the Ghost in the Shell movie is I plug into the virtual realm. I don't expect to be in the virtual realm and get hijacked or punked or any of that stuff. If any of your listeners want a lovely treat for themselves, go rent Ghost in the Shell. It's an anime classic. Even though you don't like cartoons, everyone who hates cartoons love this movie because it's film noir. It's very Casablanca. It's just a great movie. So in this movie, the idea is that you can plug into the internet and use it sort of like you can jump into your smartphone, right? You can interact with these apps. And in that movie, there's bad people who, like viruses, while you're interacting with your phone, may overtake your phone or download images and use them unfairly. So in this movie, what I was telling Ted about, the idea is there's people who police that for you, right, and they don't put it on the user. And they call you users, right? You jack in, just like the Matrix, you're a user. You jack into whatever system there is in there. And in that system, as you're swimming around, you're a virtual sailor or surfer or shopper. In that system, the Facebook authorities that be there are to protect you. And that's where I'm at. It shouldn't be me getting in and then doing a Star Trek thing where I hack it and shoot it on the fly. Whoa, Captain, if I had a little more, I could troubleshoot these lithium crystals, maybe get one more speed past light speed. I shouldn't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? I should not have to do that. So in that Star Trek world of everybody being able to do that, which is what Facebook seems to be telling us, I prefer the Star Wars world where I don't really have to troubleshoot any of that. I get into Millennium Falcon and it flies. And if it doesn't fly, I hit it with a hammer and it fixes the problem. I don't have to start climbing into databases, and that's what Facebook wants to sort of smile and say, hey, we all have a right to protect our information. So what you need to do is, and I'm like, no, I should protect my information, but these giant data hacks, they're not getting my personal computer. They're getting your giant warehouse of information. So you need to protect the giant warehouse. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally makes sense. And I just want to not correct you, but on top of it, piggyback on what you say, the Ghost in the Shell, the anime, the Japanese anime, want to make sure that people don't get it confused with the Scarlett Johansson.
Live action.
Right. Yeah, live action, awful movie that came out. We're talking about the anime.
Yeah. You want to watch the anime from 1986 and not the 2000 and what?
17?
12. I thought it was 2000.
Well, I think they did it in 2012, but they redid it last year, and Scarlett Johansson received all different types of blowback because a lot of people were saying, why is she playing an Asian character?
Asian woman, yeah.
And that's a whole different other topic. In regards to what we were talking about being a tenant, you know your laws as a tenant.
Right.
Or at least you should know your laws as a tenant if you've ever rented an apartment.
If you're renting, if you ever rented or if you're renting right now and you're listening to this podcast, you should know what you can and cannot do to be thrown out of your apartment, what you can and cannot do to violate your lease, right? Some of the big ones are no pets. You get a pet and your lease is violated unless your landlord is like, oh, that's just in there. I love dogs, and you and your landlord get a workaround. But generally, know what you can and cannot do, and I find that a lot of people don't even know that.
No, and I just know this much: Facebook. I mean, because there's all different types of lawsuits they're being hit with right now. At the end of the day, you had to opt in.
Yeah,
you had to opt in and agree to X, Y, and Z. So whenever you wanted to play, Words with Friends, or
Scrabble, or all these other,
there's an option that's already checked when you're downloading the game or you're downloading the app. The box that's already checked is, hey, do you agree to allow us to post as you? Do you agree to give us all access to X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, exactly. And I never do.
Right, and you got to be
post on everything, all my social media life. Mm-hmm. Everything I post, I don't mass post it. So my Twitter is different than my Facebook, which is different from my Instagram because I use them for different things. It's not. I'm not trying to hit everybody with one giant bullhorn.
Correct.
So my quirky images and pictures that I like on my Instagram, my political stuff generally are for people I know on Facebook that I with a handful of people that I've met out in the world. Mm-hmm. And my Twitter life is slowly beginning to ramp up because I'm like, all right, I'm going to start yelling at people about the stuff they do.
Of course.
So those are three different things. You use them for three different reasons. I never really understand anybody who isn't a professional broadcaster or a professional actor of some sort who would just mass blast everybody with these three things.
Or unless they're Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, exactly. If I have if I'm just like a bullhorn, that's one thing. But if you come at each of the platforms for a different use, or you got used to use them in a different way, then maybe you shouldn't mass blast. You know what I mean?
Hey, I want to talk to you as we segue. This is Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Go there. Check out the website for the latest blogs. You can click on the Twitter feed and follow. You can also select the Facebook radio button and also follow the Facebook feed for the latest blogs if you don't want to go to the site. But to wrap up this last segment, I will tell you this much. Everything that's posted on the Late Night Parents Twitter feed is different than what goes on the Facebook feed because it's two different audiences. So
thank you. I thought it was. I'm not that tech savvy, but I just could not understand why they all came in at different things for different things. They maybe begin to resemble each other. But yeah, my hatchback is not the same as my SUV,
right?
Which is not the same as my motorcycle. You know what I mean? They're all transportation, granted. You need a driver license for all of them, but they're not the same thing. Yeah. So,
but I want to get into it with you that, and also make sure you give True Armor a follow. TRU_ARMOR. Want to get into you with this. When I say to you Stephen Clark is no different than saying Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Sean Bell,
Yusuf Hawkins. If you want to go way back,
Yusuf Hawkins. We can go way back.
Always gunplay.
There's always some type of gunplay. There's always some type of drama, and unfortunately, we always run into the same end result.
Yeah.
Because right now, people are marching. People in Sacramento, California are marching. They're enraged. They're upset.
Yeah.
They feel that what our president said, that fire and fury is in their belly.
Yeah.
And then what? Then what happens?
Then they go home. They're catching that binge Netflix. Then whatever. I mean, it's... how can you keep marching? I mean, what is... At this point, you're marching to march. What is the end game? I mean, it's not like you're marching because you've had it with the last shooting, because you said that at the last shooting. So I don't know what to do. I'm just...
So...
This is outrageous.
And we don't want to seem as if...
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not trying to do something else. And, right. I just don't... I think I'm exhausted for fixes.
Well, and we don't want to seem like, you should conform either.
Right.
But we're saying that these situations keep happening and keep happening and keep happening, and there's no end in sight. There's no end in sight at all. And that's where...
We know how this is going to play out. There's going to be an investigation. They're going to look into it. They'll likely file no charges because someone saw a phone and thought it was a... But if they do, that guy will not be convicted of anything. And that's that. I mean, yeah, that's it. And while that's going on, I give it 3 or 4 weeks before something else happens as ridiculous.
To take the focus off of this.
Yeah.
And switch to something else.
Yeah.
I mean, because we do realize this, that 24-hour news cycle. So, even after Stephen Clark murder happened, something else is going to happen, and that's where the news will shift to.
Yeah.
And
some cute Hollywood starlet getting mad. You know what they're going to wrap up? Mm-hmm. They're going to wrap up this British wedding.
Yeah.
And that's what'll be talked about until people get tired of British weddings. But it won't be, they'll keep talking about Trump because Trump is a soap opera now. But all the real stuff that people want, the gerrymandering, all the things that should be on the agenda, why, excuse me, none of that's going to get taken care of. It's just more pretty talk to put on TV while nothing gets fixed.
And it's sad. It's so sad that we're at this point, or that we've been beaten to the point when we're like, nothing's going to happen. I mean, we understand. Yes, we do have to march. Yes, we do have to fight back. We do have to push back. We understand all of this. But the fact that this keeps happening, and the fact of the matter was, of this past week, the bomber in Austin, and the police chief had the nerve to call that person, a challenged young person.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting here saying, wait a minute. What's
nothing
going
but
on
love. Here? Nothing but love for these guys.
It's painful.
It's easy. Yeah, it's easy to understand because they resemble something that the average person is comfortable with, right? Not the average person, but generally the average person, because whether you're white or black, we're all raised with a million white guys on TV doing heroic stuff, right? And it was worse when I was a kid. There was no black dudes doing any heroic stuff, and they were always sidekicks to white guys doing heroic stuff. And it was worse when my dad was a kid, because there was 0 white black guys doing heroic stuff. They were all clowns and doormen. Right, so you grow up with this kind of thing, and then you cut on your TV, and when you see one of these 18, 19-year-old do something, the first energy that these people get is, he must have had something went wrong for him versus where the first reaction they have for you is, well, now look at this, another one of these. We need tougher gun laws and more restrictions and 3-strike laws for it's never any compassion because people are trained up in this society to want to give, like you see these young white women who get into all this loopy stuff. There's never a sex scandal with young white women. The sex scandal is always the men, right? It's almost like they had a sex scandal by themselves. So how this society tells you who's innocent and who's guilty and who you should side with, is it's easy to see because there's so many outlets for other people to put, like YouTube, to put on stuff, and it's harder to hide it, But yeah, I don't see how it continues since everybody knows. I don't want to call it a game, but everybody knows why. I mean, it was easier 50 years ago when nobody knew how you manipulate mass people with the media. Now everybody knows this, and I can easily look this up and go, "Oh, look at the media playing games." I just don't see how that is still the, what's the word I'm looking for? That's still the go-to method. I guess stick with what works.
Well, I think it's just easier now because everyone's attention span is so much shorter. It's
true too.
It's 140 characters, or it's a post on Facebook, and if that post on Facebook has 2 paragraphs, you're like, you know what? I'm not reading this. That's too long.
Yeah. Yeah, a page and a half on Facebook is too long to read. It's got to be 3 paragraphs. And, it's funny. I watch a lot of how to play videos on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I generally won't watch anything longer than 10 minutes.
Right. Right.
I'm like, yeah.
I tell you this much. When we do the web show for our Sunday show, my plan is to do clips of, nothing more than 8 to 10 minutes.
Right.
Because you throw a 50-minute video in front of someone, they're going to be like, huh? I'm expected to invest this type of time? I mean, the thing that I'm appreciative of, we do these podcasts or we do the radio show, and it's usually in that 50 to 57-minute time slot.
Right.
Because you do it weekly, you give them this, and then for the most part, you'll have the people that download it, and the people that listen, and the people that will hit me up on a text message or email me.
Right.
But if you give them something that's outside of that bite size, people are like, "Oh no, thank you. You giving me too much, and I'm absolving myself of this."
Yeah.
But
they can't commit anything within like an hour.
No.
On YouTube. Yeah.
No. I mean, but these are also the same people that can binge watch 7 seconds, all 10 episodes, in a 24-hour period.
But I think, who did I mention this to? I've binge watched several things that I had to go back and binge watch again because I was like, all right, I remember half of this. I spent 12 hours getting a half of this. Like I just binge watch. There's something called. Oh my God, I forgot the name of it, but it's on Netflix. It's about these. It's sort of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's these 2 British girls, who can sort of see dead people, and they try to like stop the one of them opening a hell mouth, which is a portal, and it's good stuff. And I watched it like 6 months ago, and I was like, it's 9 episodes, and I was like, sure. And normally Netflix is 13 episodes. I was like, 9 episodes, 8 maybe, but I was like, short, quick, pithy. Yes. Really good. Each set British. All right, fine. Did a little giggling. Watched the whole thing. It took me the better part of a day. Since then, I think I've watched several episodes, not the whole thing, but just to kind of like refresh how the story takes off, because I'm really interested in screenplays and screenwriters and how stories take off in arcs and all this stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm always wondering, this must be like where chapter 2 starts in this thing, just kind of like in my own head. But I got to tell you, like, and I have more than a passing interest in stories because I'm this guy, but I don't see how the average person can binge all this stuff and at the end of like 2 months, talk back to attention span, at the end of 2 months, tell you, hey, well, I binged that 2 months ago. Oh, really? What was that about? Oh,
Right.
What was that about? Exactly, you know? So,
Hey,
yeah.
I do want to talk to you before we close out. I want to talk to you about what in the hell is going on with these autonomous cars and hitting and killing people. And, it doesn't seem to stop the process.
Skynet.
It's Skynet and it's billionaires and it's, hey, okay, and what you and I talked about before is it seems like situations like this happen, and then the billionaire, whoever's behind it, turns around and says, let me write this check to this family and let me continue on with my research.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's this idea of, I've got $100 billion to spend. Here's a couple of pennies to me, but to you it's $2 million. Get your crying out of here. Oh, and by the way, sign this thing that says I did no wrong in this action and I am not to blame in this action and all this money is yours. It's the idea that it's public streets and they can still have, privacy and all this stuff is crazy. People should really know what happened there. I mean, who was really at fault? I mean, how many times has this happened? Is it always the people just being, I mean, people don't get in the gears of other machinery like this, do they? I mean, if the thing is supposed to have sensors that stop you, and then as a safeguard, have a driver that will stop, that will be there just in case the safeguards fail, which they did, and then he's supposed to take charge of this 4,000-pound autonomous vehicle, which he apparently didn't do because this woman is dead, then I wonder, who's in charge of this system? The people who are in charge of the city seem to acquiesce their control of the streets to a private company, and the private company doesn't really seem to actually want to tell you what the problem is. I mean, they'll tell you, oh, this is a horrible tragedy, and like the Pope just passed, they give you really nice, stock. This is horrible for all people, and we're going to launch an investigation and look into it. But they don't really ever tell you anything. I mean, because, like I said, this is not the first time someone has died by Skynet. But, yeah.
No, you're right. You're
and
right.
Video of it, so, the robots are at least showing you more than the cops are showing you. But, yeah.
Hey, final parting shot. If you were in school now, if you took it back 30 years and you were in school, how would you feel if you were a student and you found out your teacher was armed? Would you feel safer?
No.
Wouldn't you want them to focus on physical education or the hygiene class or social studies?
Yeah, this is the thing. Teachers don't seem. I don't want to offend teachers, but the average teacher doesn't seem to be able to deal with the environment. Then you take that because the environment seems to be getting a little more screwy. However, whether it's violence or it's just like disrespectful kids, too much music, not enough money, and like bosses who don't want to pay you, whatever the environment, teachers seem to be like perpetually engaged in a fight. And it doesn't ever seem like they're ever engaged in a fight for the kids. So when I hear teachers talk, they're talking about more money and more safety. They're rarely talking about what they used to talk about when I was a kid in junior high school. The classes are too big.
Right.
You teach better if the kids, there aren't, if I remember the number correctly, there aren't more than 18 to 20 kids in a class.
Correct.
And now they were like 40 and 60, and that was
Yes.
impacting. And now they don't even talk about that anymore.
Nope.
It's all babysitting stuff. It's all, I want more cash in my union stuff. Yeah, that's it. And when you're not talking about that, you're talking about teachers who sleep with students. But it's never how big the class size is.
Oh,
right?
my
It's never
God.
that. So you know that you lost something. So in order to get whatever you lost back, I think you're going to have to go back to when it wasn't such a hot, crappy mess like it is now, to them when it was just bad. You know what I mean? So if you could just trace back to when the fire was smoldering and the house was covered in smoke, if you can get back to that part, oddly enough, that's when it was good. You know what I mean? Because right now, what you have is a raging fire that's burning down the countryside. So whatever time machine you can fix, or whatever place you're looking to get a hold of the problem when the problem became unwieldy for you, and then you began just coming up with excuses and lies about whose fault it is, and it's the kids, and it's, you know what I mean? And when you stop talking about actual teacher problems, go back there, because all of that will fix where we are now. No teachers shouldn't have guns. That's ridiculous. No teachers shouldn't be put in perpetual broken teacher rooms because they said something or did something slightly below illegal with some students, you know? And then they sit there for 20 years. All these weird, broken, nonsensical teacher things, you need to get out of there. And then the people that you lead, you need to pay a decent and respectable salary. Once you do that, you can go back to what the original problem was the class size. Because now people want to be there. They're making good money. They don't want to lose their gig. And you can go, I don't have a, look, if you need to hire more teachers, hire more teachers. Get the class sizes down. You hire more teachers. It's good for the teachers, right? I'm assuming it's good for unions. Do America still like unions? I don't know. I think that's good for unions. But at the end of the day, what we have now, armed teachers, is just a symptom of the problem. The teachers are not the best of the best, right? Because the society is suffering. It's a symptom of society. Again, I don't want to blame all teachers. The cop situation is totally different. The cop situation is just from 400 years of overseership and willful violence to a group of people. That's the holdover with the cop problem. The teacher problem is not that. The teacher problem is a symptom of neglect and quite frankly, not really, I don't want to say hating the group of people that you're policing, but let's say you don't really care for them. And in order to police people you don't care for, why would you expect to do a good job? They're only embarrassed because more media means more of this stuff gets out. So, you know, shooting up the joint, that doesn't happen in some schools, doesn't happen generally in the hood. But, I mean, those teachers, they don't need to carry guns. Like I said, it doesn't happen in the hood. What do those teachers get? You know? I mean,
not much.
The whole situation seemed to be ridiculous solutions for problems that you should have solved a long time ago. And likely they're not solved because people who've been there solve them, they would have solved them. So yeah, the teachers and guns thing is ridiculous. I don't even think it merits honest consideration, because you know you have to. Who wants people around their children with guns and you don't know who these people are? You know, every now and then you find out that one was a racist. Now you find out that he's a racist with a gun. Ugh, I don't know.
Hey, Sean, I need you to hold on a minute because we're going to close out this show, but we're going to do an extended podcast. So we're going to close the show. Yeah.
I think
no. I said, I'm sorry. I was on mute. I was saying, I need you to hold on because we're going to end this show, but we're going to do an extended podcast because I got to end it at the 60-minute mark so we can then push this out to
well, you got 15 seconds.
The people that distribute. So right. Hang on 1 second. Want to thank you for joining us on Late Night Parents. Best ways to find us, latenightparents.com. I'm the real Ted Hicks. Our special guest this evening was Sean Armour, a.k.a. you can find him on Twitter, TRU_ARMOR. And that is a wrap.
That is a wrap. It's always good talking to you.
And we are back for the extended podcast. We're still recording. We're still recording. We're not done. We're not done yet. But wanted to get into it with you because so I'll give you some inside baseball type stuff, Sean. So the show itself is distributed to about 15. It's a hybrid of 15 internet and terrestrial stations.
Right.
But the deals that we have are only good for the 60-minute model.
Okay.
Okay.
So if it gets real good, you got to end it at a certain time and kick it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're only, like, most of these places that air the show, they only air it for, my
60-minute blocks.
Right. It's really, to be truthful, it's about a 57, max 58-minute block. So that's what we do. So a lot of times when we have good conversations like this, and this is what we used to do back in the good days of barbershop sports, we would do an extended podcast. Right. So the podcast, as you know it, will be the full show, but the 60-minute show will only consist of, what took place in that first 60 minutes. Bang, that's it, boom, end of story. I wanted to hold you on for one more topic.
Yeah.
This is the bonus topic, and this is the bonus topic because it affects the both of us. And not just us, it affects our childhood, our parents' childhood, our children's, and soon to be our grandchildren's childhood.
Ancestry and progeny. I like this already.
Right. And it talks about the demise of Toys R Us.
Outrageous.
I mean, how did you feel? I mean, I'm hoping there's some 11th hour opportunity here that the Toys R Us brand, even if it's, shrank.
Yeah, considerably.
Even if they go from 700 stores to 300 stores.
Right.
That it could somehow survive, but it doesn't look that way. How did you feel when you heard, like, we went from Toys R Us it has problems to Toys R Us is going away. Oh, we're doing a liquidation on Friday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, stuff just doesn't happen that quick. What's your... I would love to hear your hot take on Toys R Us.
Well, I feel like the people in charge are responsible for this. They cut our throat. The idea that money is so all important that you can just let these guys keep gobbling up with good business models or bad business models. And this seemed to be a bad business model, right? And mind you, I'm not a Wall Street guy or an entrepreneur or anything like this, but if you try to expand and you buy up all these other things and take on all this debt, and then the debt wipes you out, not only did you wipe yourself out, but you wiped out all these other toy companies that would have been around had you not, did what you did. It reminds me of the Hillary Clinton presidential election. It's like you burned down the thing to stop this other thing from happening. I don't know, man. The whole thing seemed to me to be a country without America without a toy store. I mean, one of the nicest memories I had. Exactly.
A physical
one of the nicest memories I had. Brick and mortar toy store. Exactly. Walk in with your kids and have them wander around a toy store is one of those things. It's sort of like it's just a rite of passage, and it's a nice little one. When your kids are old enough to be into toys, and it's good to see little kids toddle over, to see what first grabs their attention. That's beautiful. And it's nice to see, like, 4-year-olds find what suits them because they've begun to know their own mind, whether it's erector sets or coloring books or, the model airplanes. All these things say, and psychiatrists and psychologists will tell you, this says something. Play is important. It says something about how your child interacts and solves problems and interacts with other children. All these things are just nice to see unfold in small increments as you take your kid to, Toys R Us on a Saturday. Excuse me, on a Saturday to wander about. I don't know if people, well, not anymore because there are no Toys R Us, but I used to wander about and look at stuff that I was never going to be able to get, right? Like these, back when I was a kid, they had RC cars and RC helicopters, and they were going for like $400 or $500 back then, which was an enormous sum to like, a 12-year-old boy. But, this is what I liked, and somebody else will maybe wander in and look at something totally different. It's like the death of Toys R Us and the death of like Tower Records, where you could wander in and flip through the music and hear something playing that you may not have bought and was like, oh, what's playing? Or maybe I'll get that single. These small things that make a society, they're erasing, and they're doing it for money. And then they're going to give you this half-baked, half-assed substitute, which I'm assuming is going to be some online sort of deal. And that is whatever online deal they give you to substitute this thing is bad. America, and it doesn't have to be Toys R Us. Toys R Us is just the tent pole that I'm hanging this thing around. But the idea of your country not having a major toy store is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, what? Rich people have children. Poor people have children. As far as I know, all children love toys. How is this a good thing for the country? This is one of those things where the government should step in and say that this is a threat to national security that we don't have a toy store. Instead of this whole merger that they're trying to who's trying to merge now? Is it AT&T and
AT&T and Time Warner?
And Time Warner, right? So you're going to tell me that that might be a threat to the place, but the idea of your children growing up as drones in a toyless society, like this is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, is a good man. don't get me into a rant because this doesn't make any sense. If your listeners want to get agitated over stuff, this is one of the things that you should put on the list. And I would put it up fairly high. It sounds innocuous and stupid and just something that puts you out of your, not out of your comfort zone, but just kind of makes you, when you have to go extra further, what's the word on the phone? You have to go further than you want to. Mm-hmm. And, that kind of thing. It may put you out a little bit because you have to go through hoops to get this toy now. But the idea that there's not a toy store that you can take your kids to, your grandkids to, you ought to be ashamed. You personally, whoever's listening to me as an American, you ought to be like, what the heck are they doing in my country? Are they? What else are they going to get rid of? That every likes. Toys, really? Toys for the? It don't make any sense. I mean, I think this is a national crisis that we don't have a toy store, and they should look into whoever upended Toys R Us like this, and there should be some consequences. But yeah, how dare we not have a toy store?
I will just jump in and piggyback off of some of your thoughts, and maybe go in a slightly different direction. I'm going to go in the direction. Yes, there should be a brick and mortar store. Everything can't be virtual.
Exactly.
Everything cannot be virtual. I mean, and as I go into a tangent, I think about my son, and he's playing with his friends. He was just playing with his friends on Xbox. And I said to him, why don't you go around the corner and go see them?
Yeah.
Why don't you go around the corner?
What, you mean in person?
He was like, I wouldn't know what to say to them.
Oh my God.
And this is something that I can say because you and I met around 1976.
Yeah.
On the previous podcast, I gave through our actual numbers, but for those of you that can count, I think you could do the math on it. So we met around 1976. So we had the opportunity to be outside and
in the sun.
interact, and throw a football around, play wiffle ball.
Yeah.
You know,
I look at this like we had the last actual black parents. I think everyone else has African American parents. And if you don't know what the difference is, I think there is an extraordinary difference. I think black parents are steeped in that 1960s black radical kind of, even if you weren't a Black Panther, it was in the ether and people were talking about it. So you grew up kind of sort of looking out for each other and looking out at what was happening outside your door. So your mom looked out for me. Todd's mom looked out for Todd.
Thomas.
Todd, thank you. I'm got a head full of like mumble
names.
Words. Thomas's mom looked out for me. Troy's mom looked out for me. Todd's dad looked out for us. I mean, Derek's mom. And you couldn't get into trouble because you had extra pair of eyes going
at all times. At all times.
Better get in that house before I tell Katie what you did. Yes, Miss Hicks, and get my butt to moving. We had more. We played video games. I mean, Atari. And we had video games.
Right.
We also had music. We went to house parties, and we had to socialize. And now people don't have to socialize. I mean, if you took someone's phone and their Xboxes and their PCs.
That's the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how would people...
That would only be part of our world. Because we would understand that there was a balance. There's no balance nowadays.
No, there isn't.
It's just the virtual world, and then there's the virtual world.
Yeah.
And
But people don't want balance. They want control.
You're right.
Right. So this is why people are crashing their marriages, because no one can tell anybody that they're wrong. I remember my parents having some knockdown, drag out yelling matches where the kids cried, right? Me and Fee and Ed. My older brother Walt was like, y'all just stop. Because little kids 7 and 8 don't really get what a serious screaming match is between people who love each other. Right? Now people don't see that. That whole thing, you would crash a relationship way before it got to that point. And to be able to have those kind of knockdown, drag out fights on where the kids go to school and where to put the money and should we take a vacation, all these things that husband and wives and parents go through, where you go, well, this is what I say, and I want to go visit my sister in Florida, and Pops is like, I'm not trying to go to Florida in the heat with all these kids and your annoying sister. Let's go. It's that. So like, you don't always get what you want. And in this society of I want control and I don't want to have to take counsel from anybody, you get these really sort of jacked kind of views on what is, I guess, what loving commitment is, right? Look, my mother used to tell me, and my mother loves me, right? But she used to tell me, boy, get up out of my face and go outside, right? And she'd say it like she hated you to death, because there were 5 of us. We were always around her. If it wasn't me, it was my little brother Ed or my little sister. So yeah, go outside and play. Go climb a tree. What is Ted doing? Go knock on Ted's door. Go see what he's doing. Right? All right. You don't get that anymore. Now you get, go play video games and stay in the house. It's your people need to be socialized. Your young people need to be socialized. And if you just let them choose TV, then TV socializes them. And what's on television? I
think there's a symbolism here, because Toys R Us had an opportunity. They had an opportunity, and I think they were lacking. And maybe it was due to the transfer of power with ownership or the various owners, because, they've been operating at a deficit for close to 12 years, okay?
Yeah.
I think the business itself, the business model they were running, was totally outdated. It was totally outdated. Their business processes were totally outdated.
I agree with that.
I think, it's easy to blame Amazon. It's easy to blame Amazon because they're slowly owning everything, and they're becoming their own meta country with their headquarters. And we sit and we talk about we sit there and we talk about. I got people yelling in the background. That's the best thing about a podcast,
Right. The realness of it.
The fact of the matter is, with Amazon, you have them. We're watching how these cities are being pimped out for the HQ2 project. We're watching all of this, but I'm going to go back to Toys R Us to say, okay, you could have changed your model. You could have said, hey, XYZ person wants to purchase something online. It shouldn't take a week to get to that location, and the shipping shouldn't be $8.95. You got to be able to move with your competition. And we're watching this with Sears and JCPenney and Macy's, and these were cornerstone stores.
Going past them, those guys took out gimbals and these A&S. and A&S and what's the other one that was
TSS.
in TSS? What was the one that was in Alexander's? Alexander's was in I mentioned it was gimbals, but like back in the 1930s when they made Miracle on 34th Street, those were the big stores. It was Macy's, and in that movie, Macy's chief rival was Gimbals, right?
Right.
Gimbals did not innovate. So I remember when Gimbals went out of jail in about 1970, I want to say 75, 76, by the time we met. So if you do not stay at least
relevant,
observant. Yeah, exactly. Observant, not even relevant, but observant of what the pack does. There are people who haven't been relevant, but who have stayed alive for 150 years, making whatever they're making, whether it's whiskey, and then all of a sudden people go, hey, Jameson's is 100 years old. And whiskey and Scotch. And all of a sudden now you got this not niche, but this panache of oh, wow, look, he's old and swanky. Mm-hmm. But they didn't start out like, big dogs. So I think, like we talked about this yesterday, what Toys R Us did was they outsourced their online toy business essentially to Amazon.
Yes.
And now they need it. It's like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton essentially did not look after the black vote, right? So she let Acorn go under, who was registering black people to vote. And then she needed those votes because she was like, whatever. And so Toys R Us, in the same vein as that Hillary Clinton thing, was like, this internet thing, whatever. And Amazon was like, you know what, we got this, don't worry about it. And there you have it. It's this idea of when you're on top and how you view yourself versus how you view the situation you're in. I think Amazon is primed to just own everything in the next 50 years. And here's the scary thing. Once companies' founders die, they become these wholly different things.
Oh,
they're
totally.
They're run by sharks who, as they're owned by family members, right? So the family members do what I said earlier. I think, I'm about to say Jeff Bezos owned Amazon, what Zuckerberg did, right? Oh, it runs itself. I'll sit here in my giant mansion. What was he doing? He was traveling all over the world. He wanted to travel to all 50 states while this was going on, right? Mm-hmm. He wasn't on this. So there you have it. You're in this, wow, this thing is a money-making behemoth, and I'm the king of it. I'm going to do what kings do. I'm going to kick back. All of a sudden, people are like, sir, the barbarians are at the gate. And now he's talking about, sir, well, maybe I'll speak to Congress. Maybe you'll speak to Congress. Better get your ass down here. Maybe I'll speak to Congress. So, it's you watch these movies with these Machiavellian twists that people love to watch. Those guys whose organizations run on autopilot when they're on their giant yacht someplace, they have metrics to deal with it. Like somebody shows up in like a bad guy movie and he goes, somebody took some cocaine off of us. He's gonna put hunters to go get those people. He's gonna deal with you because you should have secured the place. If Jeff Bezos, if this was his cartel empire, not Jeff Bezos, again with Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, this was his empire, and they come and tell him, hey, they mess with our metrics and they embarrass your cartel here. What are you going to do about it? He should at least have had a situation. He should have at least had an apparatus in place, head of security. We haven't heard from that guy, and they all have one, don't they? Who is that guy? Shouldn't he be front and center going, whoa, this happened and we hit it immediately? And he should have did that when it happened a year ago. So they don't have anybody. So this is the point of the movie where they're like, Zuckerberg, man, they mess with our metric and the whole bit. And now Zuckerberg has to call some other dude to see how they dealt with these upstart you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is where they are. This is where Zuckerberg is. So Zuckerberg, he's if he's not careful, he's going to be MySpace.
You did mention that before. I remember you mentioning if he doesn't watch it. I mean, I'm guessing, hoping that, you know, as a tenant that hasn't deactivated his account yet.
That's ridiculous. Why? Yeah.
You know, I haven't deactivated, but I use it for different reasons. I mean, it's all about how you use it.
Exactly. Or adjusting. You can adjust how you use it and not, deactivate the account.
That's true. Yeah. But
it's all this grandstanding, all this. That's a lot of what this society is. People happy to jump on whatever grandstanding bandwagon we have going on at the time. Like this, I won't call it grandstanding, but these Parkland kids, you know, they're sort of a bandwagon. They're on every television show, not television, news program talking about this. And you're like, all 3 morning shows 3 times this week. All right, wow. You know, it's just, you get to a point where you're like, you know, I can spot the grandstanding of it. So, yeah.
I will say this much, and you and I both do it. We both support the young folks from Parkland, Florida. We don't want them to be used as props.
Exactly.
And I think some of your thoughts are resonated with that. You don't want it to be used as a prop or politicized.
Right.
You know, you want it to be, you want those core values. And it always comes down to core values, that it stays at that point. You want to be able to align yourself to it.
Right. I want it to be true north. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like what I think our system doesn't have, or maybe it's never had, and maybe what it needs is a moral true north. You know, it's fine to, like I was telling my nephew, somebody once told me, lie to everyone else, but never lie to yourself. It's one of the wisest things anybody who wasn't a teacher of mine has ever told me. Okay. And he explained it to me this way. If I am gay, right, and no one knows that I'm gay, and you've known me for 30 years, and you've never known that I was gay, right? It is better for me to know that I'm gay and hold that secret and just keep my mind to myself and tell you, oh, yeah, I got some hot sex with some cute girl yesterday. And you're like, yeah. But then meanwhile, you and the guy's like, never seen with a girl, but that's all right. He's cool. Versus lying to myself, which means I'm secretly gay. You've known me for 30 years. I run out and get married. I have kids. You know, I'm miserable. People who live lies, it oozes out of them. So if that's the case, I didn't make my wife miserable. A divorce is coming. I'm going to make my wife miserable. These kids, I'm going to make miserable. You know, it's the idea of knowing your own mind is super important, even if you don't want other people to know your own mind, right? So, like I said, lie to everyone else. Just don't lie to yourself. And this is kind of where I'm at on the topic. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. I will say this much. You've been my friend long enough that if you were gay, it wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah, and it shouldn't, right? Especially in this modern day where people, look, I remember, this is a personal story of mine. I had a friend who was gay, and he came out. And I had a problem with it because he didn't come out in the 1970s. This was like fucking 2004. I'm like, so essentially you're lying to us. I'm like, you were cowardly. Like, I don't want to say cowardly, but you've known us long enough that you shouldn't have had to play this game. Like this is, like I said, 1960s. Nobody's gonna ban you from the community. No. You can still drink here with us. What is this lying business over something trivial? You know what I mean? It's the idea that you should have been stronger than this. And I think I was really pissed off that I thought he was stronger than that. But it wasn't just me. A lot of other people took it in. Well, not a lot of other people. Me and two other guys took it in like, that's weird that he would.
I'm just gonna say,
yeah,
gay, straight, bi, whatever.
Yeah, I kind of don't care.
You know,
just don't lie to me.
It's all about the friendship. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like if you were a random knucklehead, I wouldn't care. But I was like, I think I know this dude fairly well enough. He's all right. And then all of a sudden, you got this whole other life going on. And like I said, if it was 1950s, I totally understand. But again,
tell me this much.
Freaking three.
Tell me this much.
Why are you fighting this?
Tell me this much. So he hit it. Why would that bother you? Well,
because it goes to being a liar. It's like, you ever had a friend cheat on their wife and ask you to prop their story up? I've told dudes this several times. I'm not lying to your wife for you. I'm not on board with it, and I'm not doing it. Okay. I don't want to be. In my tiny, small, little existence, I try and be as righteous as I possibly can. Okay. In a land that I think people aren't righteous. I appreciate nothing more than loyalty. So when I give it and I take it away, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal to me because I'm from hip hop. You know, when hip hop was new, it was about loyalty. Now I don't know what the hell hip hop is about. It's about talking nonsense and how much stuff you got in shopping, I think. But the tenets of hip hop back in the day was you know, bros before hoes, and that whole kind of idea of don't burn your man over a woman, and if you're dating your man's sister, she's not your average girl. Treat her with respect. There was all these hip hop rules that we came with, and I told my nephew, none of those are taken serious, and this is the thing. So, you know, be gay. I don't care. Like I said, lie to everybody. Don't lie to yourself. But when you start lying to me, I get to call you on it. This wasn't, like I said, this was 2003. This wasn't freaking 1978 where you would lose your job. And it was a bar. We weren't even, you know, we weren't co-workers. You know, it was a bar. We shot darts together. We liked it, you know. And we found out because another dude that we hung out with got murdered on Craigslist, hooking up with dudes. And we didn't know he was gay. And then apparently they kind of had this secret amongst themselves. So it took a murder for him to kind of get his head clear. And I was just kind of like, dude, you should have had more respect for yourself and more respect for us. And now you're sneaking around, which is like, you're you know, it's not about the sex, it's about the person. You're sneaking, you know, it's a bar. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in 10 years I'll look at it differently. But if you let me know that you can't be trusted, I'm going to take that very seriously. Because in my life, I've met people who told me they couldn't be trusted, and they were right. They couldn't be trusted.
So wait. I want to rewind this back a bit. You said in your life you've run into people and they told you they couldn't be trusted.
I'm gonna cheat on my wife. I'm like, yesterday, and on the phone taking a cold call. He's like, yo, and no, I'm not trying to because. Should I have a built-in excuse for just in case that woman calls me? I'm a bad liar too. No, if you let me know that you're gonna burn your woman, or if you're gonna burn your homies, or you know that sits in the back of my mind, and like, all right, I've had dudes who snake me over women, and I was like, that's you showing me that you can't be trusted. Wow. You go into the kitchen at a party and you hit on her. What? You cannot be trusted. You are a sinister character.
I'm going to tell you this much, Sean. This is Late Night Parents, and this is our podcast where we initially started talking about the demise of Toys R Us.
Then I got off on a rant.
Then we moved towards someone that was gay that hid it from you to the point where people were snaking you. I mean, this is golden right here. But
it's philosophy. It's your what is your moral philosophy? Essentially, is what I spilled a little bit out of. I'm a loyalty monger. It's what I pride myself on. It's the thing that's my biggest blessing and my biggest curse, because sometimes I get burnt. I don't, But loyalty, in a society of where loyalty is not the moral compass, like which started this whole thing, it's sort of gone, and it's get that money, get that paper. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not gonna knock you. I'm not gonna knock you on that, because, like you said, it is. I'm not sure when we moved to a society when it was just strictly about the money. I'm not sure when it happened, but I see that's where we are. I see that's where we are today, where everything is revolving around money, and it's. I don't know. I don't know how high of a regard I hold that that I hold you and the friends that we grew up with. I hold you in high regard, because I could say, hey, I converse with them every day. Every day I can send out something stupid amongst our group in a chat room, just to be like, there's some connectedness there.
Right. Now let's take our group. Now imagine, like we said, I'm secretly doing some wild stupidness, and not that it's illegal, but you would be like, why? We've known each other forever. Why would that be a secret? Like, again, it's not a crime.
Right.
Why? And you like these people, and you spend your time with these people, and these people are accepting of you, and it's not criminal. If you had a cocaine problem, I get wanting to keep that a secret. If you were on heroin, I get wanting to keep that a secret. If you had a secret family, that's one of those things where you're like, Ted had a secret family? What? People, you would be thrown off your rocker. So my best advice to people is that old cliche of people show you who they are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And in my opinion, they generally show you who they are by phrases and statements. And it's not so much, the one giant action that you let them get away with and hope that they didn't pull it on you. I don't like the bad action. I've seen Democrats do stuff that I hated, and the Republicans do the stuff that I hated. And I hate the thing, but on Facebook, my liberal friends don't have a problem with hating the president, as long as the president is Republican. But all of a sudden, you should have all this respect for the office if the president is a Democrat, right? So, you just want people who are shifty, not who are who are shifty, who aren't shifty. You know what I mean? And that's where people get the most anger, when people that they let get in their tent under their guard are one of these people. So just have a better flush system is essentially what I'm saying. Because morality, like I said, people aren't being raised to do it, so you have to take it on yourself. And if I'm a bad dude, I'm obviously hanging out with bad dudes. And even among the bad dudes, there's a code. You know what I mean? Don't disrespect my woman. Don't steal from me. And we're all bank robbers, or we're all, cartel members, or whatever it is. In this little sphere that we're trying to share socially, you can't be a liar. You can't upend the energy of the group. And that's what I mean. Because after that happened, people, not only were we talking about the murder, we were also talking about him. Why did he tell people? And why would he be ashamed of that? And I don't understand it. And my whole thing was just kind of like, why is he lying? Oh, and then people come up with their own scenarios about why he's lying. You don't understand what his life is like. That's not for me to understand. You don't understand my life. It's like, I'm not lying to you. So, yeah, the society is about getting it, and people get it any way they can. And since they get it immorally in a moralist society, you really can't knock, quote unquote, how they eat. Remember that phrase?
Yes.
So, where drug dealers was like, don't knock how I eat. Like, yeah, I'm knocking how you eat. You're poisoning the community, you dumbass. Don't knock my hustle. I'm absolutely going to knock your hustle. All these things stood up like bad philosophies in the hip hop community. We should have a talk about hip hop. I could go on for days about how hip hop is different than when we came up with it in our youth and what my nephew calls hip hop.
Of course, we
Yeah.
that's for another time. That's a podcast in its own, and
Yeah.
we can do that next week. Where I would love for Jay Stewart, who's radio DJ for WPFW in Washington D.C. 89.3, to join us because he, yes, by trade does hip hop, but he's kind of migrated over to neo soul. Not to say,
right.
not to say that there's anything wrong with hip hop, but hip hop as itself has changed greatly, and it's, what do they say? It's mumble rap now.
Yeah, it's mumble rap and nonsense. I mean, when it's not mumbly, it's about my car,
Right?
how I hate you, and when it's not that, it's mumbly.
That's true. That's true. Any final thoughts? I want to say thank you for jumping on this pod, because we covered a lot of topics. We covered some ground. We always do cover ground. We always cover ground because there's so much to discuss. I mean, we discuss so much via chat that some of these topics kind of bubble up.
Yeah.
And where you have to take it to the next level and give it in spoken word. When can we expect to hear a podcast from you? Where can we find you on social media? Now's the time to plug yourself.
Well, I don't have any of that because I'm notoriously slow. But I hope to be up and running and annoying people with a podcast, hopefully by about the end of April, because there's something about April Fools that I kind of like that I think would be nice to kick off my first shows with the sense of like the whole month is supposed to be tongue-in-cheek and lighthearted, and maybe I can get a podcast where I don't take myself so seriously and I can sort of back off the heavier issues for the most part and deal with everydayness. So hopefully the end of April.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So hopefully, let's see what we get.
That's cool, and the best way to follow you is true_armor. That's TRU_ARMOR on Twitter, and you're definitely a great follow because you can hold the conversation in between our podcasts. I got a tweet from Mark Hogue giving me a brief overview of why we actually need self-driving cars. So between people listening and or people tweeting us back, we have gotten a few responses. Mark, I will listen to your debate and have you as a guest on.
Wait, can you give me the broad strokes of what he thinks?
I've got to listen to it first, so I will tweet you the link so that you can hear it too on why we need autonomous cars. Right. I mean, we do.
I'm already outraged.
Right. we do see some benefits.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just feel, and just to reiterate, that we don't have an issue with autonomous cars. We think the test case should not be happening with live traffic, with live people,
where you have kids and strollers, and it doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense. We're not thinking solely against, we should not definitely do this. No one is not saying that. Right. We're just saying, hello, folks. Think about
due diligence.
Do your due diligence, and we can eventually get there.
Yeah.
Other than that, best ways to listen to the show is latenightparents.com. You go to the show. You go to the website. You'll find the latest. We kind of made it a one-stop shop. You can get the latest blogs. You can get the Twitter feed, and you can get the Facebook feed, and they're all 3 different focuses. It's like more. The Facebook feed is more for giveaways and just random posts, and really more about sometimes hey, upcoming guests that are coming on the live show, which is on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern on 12:40 a.m. WGBB. Then you got the Twitter feed that pushes out a little bit of everything, and then you got your standard blog posts, and you have what's available is the latest podcast and radio show are available also on the site. So we'd like to say, one-stop shop, go there. So I think I shared with you last month, we had 40,000 unique visitors visit the site, and upwards of 500,000 page views. I know no one believes me. I only sent it to you so you could see it yourself.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and publish it on a Facebook page because that's more being, I don't know. You don't want to be a braggart,
right?
You just want to be
but you sort of do.
But you sort of do.
Exactly. Right.
But you kind of sort of do, because if you don't brag about yourself, who will?
Exactly. Who will toot your own horn if you don't toot your own horn?
So lastly, I will say this much. Tomorrow we have two guests that's going to be on the radio show. One is the host of Gospel Celebration. They're celebrating April or March 31st, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to have gospel concert. It's located in Queens, New York. I believe it's around the Springfield Gardens area. They're going to have their 17th annual. So they're going to be coming on the show at the top of the show. And then we're going to have a young lady who's going to share her story at the second part of the show. I believe she has dyslexia. And she's going to, tell us about her plight as she was, she's gone on and she's graduated college and everything else like that. But she wanted to just overall share her story. So, want to thank the PR folks that have reached out constantly, the PR team that reaches out to the show. And I think this week I got one event. Sean, you're not going to believe this. I got invited to, it's at the Steak Grill and Bar, 350 Fifth Avenue Concourse level, around 34th Street, where I am going to build and customize my own Converse sneaker.
What?
Yes. This is the beauty about blogging and about being an influencer. I will be allowed to customize my own Nike sneaker. Converse sneaker.
All right. Okay. So, wow.
Yeah, it's an evening will consist of networking, drinks, and a presentation of the vendor, Cyber Reason, and you design your own pair of custom Converse sneakers, courtesy of HIC and Cyber Reason. So That's going to be this Wednesday. So want to give them a big shout out. And I think that's going to bring everything to a close. So I definitely want to get back with you. And if you want, we could do this thing weekly.
Yes.
Because there's a whole different, and this is solely, the best thing is the podcast is much more different than a radio show. The radio show is kind of like get in and get out. Segment 1 through segment 4.
Right.
Where this is more long form. And you have the ability to sit here and I get to bloviate on certain things and, I had 40,000 unique visitors last month. But right. That's where we kind of are. So definitely, bro, want to thank you for joining, and
thanks for having me,
man. Last thing I will tell you is we were at Tiger Schulman's earlier today, and Shinsei Nehemiah was
sweep the legs,
sweep the legs, man. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, yo, you're like the biggest dude in here. I said, yo, they're going to be coming at you. But other than that, like I said, as we said at the onset of the podcast, big shout out to all of those that attended the March for Our Lives. It's so important. We would never say not to go out and march. We are just, I guess we're marched out. Marched out. But we're in full support of this initiative across the globe. And, the gun reform and common sense laws need to be put in place. And mostly, as we will say as we get towards election season, you got to get out there. Make sure you're registered. Get out there. And if there's someone that isn't registered, someone in your home that's of age to vote and possibly might not be registered, get them involved.
Yeah.
Get them involved, because it's only at the grassroots level this stuff is going to happen and going to take place. And you can potentially make that change.
Yeah, and one of the most beautiful things you can share with your kids is your politics.
That's true. I mean,
someone else would share theirs with them, so take them to vote. At least his first time out. Take
them to vote. Get them involved. Keep them informed.
Exactly.
And it's more to life. It's more to life than CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC.
Right.
Those are not those might be the three cable outlets that are, pushing their agendas, whether it's left, right, and neutral. And you take your guess on who's neutral, and that depends on the day. But there's more to it, so you got to get involved. You got to know what's going on. If you're not involved, you're going to be left on the side, and then you will make your selection based off of sound bites. And that's what I believe what happened. Partially, what happened this the 2016 election campaign. I know we said we were getting ready to go, but we had two candidates that might not have been the best candidates for their parties.
Might.
I'll be neutral. Might. As we said, we say this as Bernie Sanders got his legs swept from under him. But you every day you watch the sound bites up until you got to the point of, okay, I need to turn off the TV. I'm tired of this.
Dude, about 2 to 4 weeks ago, I started going back and watching. I've been posting on my Facebook site. I've been going back and watching the run up to the election, and like primarily the night of the election and the following weeks, just the Democrats, because the Republicans are giddy as frick and they're bad winners. So watching them is just so like ridiculous. But watching the Democrats be perpetually shocked that this happened is just, like I've been saying it forever. I can't wait till the midterms, and now the midterms are on us. See what happens.
And as we said before, years ago we would have gotten in trouble from saying this. A 70-year-old white woman is not going to inspire you like a 40-plus-year-old black man. Yeah.
And a 70-year-old white woman who's got issues. Let's just say issues. I mean, she would have to have been a Mother Teresa of a type of person for this, and she wasn't. She was problematic. To say the least, she was problematic. And yeah, her over a 40-year-old to replace a 40-year-old charismatic, b-balling, a guy who knows hip hop and R&B and as well knows all this legal stuff, and by everybody's by no stretch of the imagination and by everybody's essential assessment of the guy, honest, nice, friendly. How you gonna replace that guy with someone who's got moral compass issues?
True. And that's another conversation for another time. Sean, I want to thank you once again.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for the supersized edition of Late Night Parents Podcast. Hour 1 will be released to the providers. And to be truthful with you, Hour 2 could be released to the providers, or we might just leave it on the site and let it harvest up there just for us. So, other than that, Sean, thanks again, bro.
Thanks, man, for having me.